Hey, if you want to improve your hip mobility, get out of low back pain, move your hips better, and get more internal rotation, then check out this protocol that I'm going to take you through that's going to help you improve it. So check this out. We need hip internal rotation to be able to do a lot of stuff, right? So think this is internally rotating the hip, right? And a lot of folks start losing it. They don't even already have it, but you start losing it with time when you don't work on it and practice it. But we need it for squatting. We need it for a hinge. We need it for a lunge. And we definitely need it for all the athletic movement, right? So when we start losing it, you'll still be able to do those things, but guess what? You're gonna start compensating, and now you might have hip issues, low back issues, knee issues because you start losing internal rotation. So I'm gonna take you guys through the protocol. I'm gonna start down on the ground. And this is gonna be essentially, let's call it movement hygiene. You can do this a couple ways. You can work on it on the daily. You know, this will probably take you 10 minutes. By the way, you don't have to do all the drills. I'll kind of explain as I go through it. You can make it as part of your warm-ups, right? But if you really want to improve something, I'm a big fan of frequency, like doing this 4 or 5 days a week, 10 minutes per day, and you're going to start seeing improvements. Okay, so even though some people are like, hey, all you have to do is breathing drills and movement stuff, I still like to do soft tissue work, right? So just think about tuning stuff down around your hips, right? Whether it's a foam roller, I like the more aggressive ones. And guess what? I'm just going to go onto the side and just find spots that are like, think about where your hip kind of attaches, right? And I'm just gonna tune this stuff down, right? I'm just gonna tune it down. So, for instance, found a spot, okay, cool. I might even do some pin and stretch, move this around, right? Until it feels a little bit better and it releases a little bit, right? I'm gonna literally sit back and I might even do a crossover. Again, finding that, there's another one, right? Finding that spot, tuning it down. Roll the quads out a little bit, but then using a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball, you know, getting in like right around, I mean, literally you'll feel where that hip is and just kind of almost carving that tissue out, you know, separating it from the bone. We'll start moving better. And like, we don't have to go into the science like people argue about, you know, what happens when you're doing soft tissue work. Thing is, you'll be able to move better and you'll feel better, right? While you're doing it, probably not. And also, like, while I'm sitting on the ground, I would actually sit on a chair and then put this down on my adductor. So now imagine if I'm on a chair or just seated somewhere, my leg would be hanging and I can really press into these adductors and I could bend my knee, right? So right now I can kind of just roll it and kind of tune that down. But if I'm sitting on a chair, I can put a lot more pressure on it. So I'd also do that, okay? So once I start, I do that on both hips because we want to work on both. Now check this out. I learned this internal rotation stretch. It'll look wacky, okay? I think that it's kind of called roadkill. You'll see why. But first, imagine that what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stretch, right? Passively stretch and gain some internal rotation. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna integrate it into movement, right? So I'm gonna show you guys 2 drills. You can use either or both, okay? But this one I've been really enjoying lately. So what I'm gonna do is take a plate, 25, 35 pound plate, and I'm just gonna lock my heel down, okay? So you can see, I'm locking my heel down, and now I'm going to come across, and by the way, this will feel different. One of the things I wanna mention, you should not feel anything in the knee, right? Twisting in the knee. If you do, bend your knee a little bit more, extend your knee a little bit more. Either way, find a position where you're gonna be able to not feel like you wanna feel that in the hip, not in the knee. I repeat, right? So I'm gonna come across and I'm trying to get my pubic bone, right? And basically my belly button pointing down. So I'm going to extend this leg. It's gonna create a little bit more tension. And now I'm slowly, right? For example, I'm actually feeling that in the knee a little bit. So I'm gonna find a little bit of a different spot. There we go. And I'm slowly kind of turning that down. And I'm just hanging out here. By the way, what's gonna really help here too is I'm gonna inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And I'm feeling getting more rotation there, right? So inhale, exhale. And again, my belly button is slowly turning down a little bit more. My pelvis is turning down a little bit more. I'm kind of inching away. And you can see, like, again, with time, because I like to do this for about 3 to 4 minutes, okay? Because that plate is locking me in. So now when I'm rotating, I'm getting internal rotation, right? Again, if you feel the knee, kind of back off a little bit, change positions, maybe get a little bit more knee bend, There we go. And just get what you can and you're hanging out. Again, I'm talking to you guys, but inhale, exhale. And you should be slowly being able to kind of like move into that. Ooh, wait. Another quick thing is like going down further, like think of a squat variation. You have a tough time internally rotating a squat. I'm actually gonna go and get my chest closer to my knee, right? That's gonna change the angle of that stretch. Actually feels great. And I do the same thing here. Inhale, exhale. And I have less internal rotation on my left, and that's why I kind of demoed on this one. So again, 2 to 4 minutes. Obviously, some of it is depending on how much time you have. Some of it is depending on what you can tolerate. Remember, do not, right, have the twisting in the knee. A couple other things you can do is put a pad under your knee, right? You want to feel everything in the hip. So that would be one drill. And I've liked doing this because it gives me like, again, 2 to 4 minutes of just passive stretching. And from there, I'm going to go into my 90-90 position, okay? So we're gonna go from this angle so you guys can see this best. I love this position for a lot of stuff. But what I'm gonna do here is, first of all, I'm going to go and just get my belly button aligned with my knee, get nice and tall, right? And basically, I call it the bow and arrow, where I push my butt back, right? I'm pushing, I'm trying to be as upright as possible. And when I am, I'm feeling my hip here, right? So this is internal rotation on this side, okay? By the way, what we do on this is like pails and rails, right? Where we push, like we're gonna hang out here. Usually you do 2 minutes, but if you're doing a daily movement hygiene, I'd say do at least a minute where you're just hanging out in that stretch position, okay? Now, from there, what I'm gonna do is, now I'm going to start turning this belly button towards the back knee, and that's what's gonna get me internal rotation. If you cannot stay upright to do this, you would be leaning back a little bit, right? So I'm gonna lean back just a little bit. I'm gonna try to get my belly button here. And now I'm feeling this stretch, internal rotation, staying nice and tall. So I'm gonna keep good posture, tall spine. Again, now I'm gonna hang out here. You can go as little as 30 seconds. I like to go for a minute or even longer. But then from that position, like, I'm going to push my knee down into the ground and even try to lift my heel off. Okay. And after I do 10 seconds here, I'm going to relax and then try to get, you can see how now I can get a little more range of motion, right? Ooh, wait. All right, so I'm gonna hang out here again for 20 to 30 seconds, and then I push into the ground again for 10. I'm speeding this up a little bit for the drill. And exhale. You can see how I get a little bit more rotation again, right? So I'd probably do 2 to 3 sets of 10 seconds, pushing, getting a little bit more rotation, right? But now I'm just working on that internal rotation of this hip. So both of those, again, I was working on both hips. This is why I'm saying this is about a 10-minute, 12-minute protocol, right? And now we would have more range of motion. Remember also, the breathing part is important, right? But now that we have more range of motion, okay, I'm slowly coming out of it. I'm gonna stand up, right? We're gonna go and do some integrative drills where we actually do movement and integrate now this new range of motion that we have. Now that we've got some, I would say, internal rotation from some passive stretches, some pails and rails from a 90-90 position. By the way, like my hips feel so much better. But now I'm gonna integrate it into a movement, right? Where now I'm essentially gonna get that ball and socket, almost like, think of it as a bowling ball, right? Because remember, this femur comes in here, we have a ball and socket joint right there. And now I'm gonna use that, but I'm gonna keep some stability because the airplane is a decently difficult exercise if you do it without hands, because I have to stabilize. So I'm going to go basically into an RDL position, right? I'm gonna use the rig, okay? And the rig, now I'm thinking, I'm gonna turn that belly button past my knee. So you can see, I have that range that I gained through those stretches. This feels great. I'm gonna get a big stretch in the side of my butt cheek, and then I'm gonna open the belly button all the way up. Now, my knee is aligned with my toes, right? So I'm keeping this aligned, and now the belly button is gonna come back down. Like I'm turning as much in as I can. Whew. Butt cheek on fire, and I'm opening back up. Like I'm really trying to feel my whole foot, right? And I go somewhere about 8 reps here. nice and smooth and controlled, right? Really control. I'm trying to open up as much as I can, right? Because again, I'm using that, I'm working that ball and socket joint, getting it through full ranges of motion. And I'd go 6 to 8 reps one side, 6 to 8 reps the other side, right? So now that feels, oh yeah, right? But again, combining on soft tissue work to those do 2 different stretches to now integration, right? And we're gonna do a couple more drills of integration to again, get that working the way that we want it to. Because we've created what I call it just a training window, right? We release the soft tissue, we're doing breathing drills, we're doing static stretches, but then we have to ingrain it with movement, with force, right? So again, after this drill, we're gonna do 2 other drills that will also improve our internal rotation. So another drill here that we can use as an actual strength exercise, but like again, I like to integrate it after I've done the drills to kind of get more internal rotation. And this is a great drill, the front foot elevated split squat. And we kind of want about 2 to 6 inches here of elevation, depending on your height. First of all, it's like, what's important is the position. Number one, I don't want to, like, a big mistake here is people will load that back foot. You can kind of see how I'm like leaning back. I want to be in that front foot. You're gonna have a little bit of a bent knee, but then I'm also going to scissor my hips. So what that means is like, I'm going to push this hip back, right? So this one goes back, this one goes forward, okay? Because now I'm in my right butt cheek, right? I'm getting that internal rotation, right, that we just worked on. And I wanna be as upright as I can be here, right? But again, boom, sorry, this way. This one goes forward, this one goes back, right? And you'll feel that in your butt cheek like crazy. I also wanna feel the inside line of the foot. I don't wanna push that knee out, right? So this is important. This hip goes back, this hip goes forward, inside line of the foot. I'm gonna stay upright, okay? And again, I'm in that front leg, coming down, feeling that inside line, feel that butt cheek, and coming back up. And again, I'm not gonna lock out, right? Because if I lock out, it pushes me to the back foot. I'm gonna stay in that front leg, really trying to keep the load here. Again, push back. I try to reset here every time, right? Inside line of the foot, boom, go back, coming down. And then we just kind of, I would say, accentuate that by adding a load that's gonna essentially drive us a little bit more into internal rotation, okay? So I'm here, keeping that load in front. Again, this one goes back, this hip goes forward, inside line of the foot, staying upright. Juicy, right? Notice I don't lock out that knee. And I would go again, 8 reps here. Notice, this is more of, like I mentioned, I'm either working on movement quality or this is part of my warm-ups, right? And like I mentioned, I would do one of those stretches if you don't have time for both. I do a little bit of soft tissue work, and I would definitely do the airplane and this drill, okay? And again, I do 8 reps per side. If you're just working on internal rotation, maybe even a couple of sets of this, because now we're actually integrating this into movement to get more, I would say, of that internal rotation of the hip, right? We're gonna do one more drill that's gonna be part of this sequence. I'm gonna show you in a second. All right, so the last one of these drills, we're gonna do a staggered RDL. Again, working on getting into that internal rotation of that hip. And I'm gonna use the rig. You can use the wall. Since we're in this area, I'm just gonna use the rig for this, right? But again, think of this where I'm driving this heel back a little bit. I'm gonna do that same thing that I did as far as that scissor motion, right? Where I don't wanna lean this back. I wanna keep a soft knee, okay? And then I'm going to push this knee forward a little bit and scissor this hip back. And you can start with just body weight where, again, I do not want to lean back, okay? I want that soft knee. I wanna have this hip go back, this hip go forward, and then I'm going to basically reach with my hand to my shin to that inside line, right? And I'm really feeling, again, a massive stretch here in the glute med, and coming back out of it. I'll usually reset. So again, back, forward, boom, right? And feel the inside line of the foot. I don't want everything to fall here to the side. And again, I probably want a little bit more. Yep, there we go. A little bit more knee bend. And I do this, again, 8 to 10 reps here. And I could add, and again, when I'm working on movement, I'm not trying to load this crazy heavy, but I am trying to load it and like really have quality movement. Again, I'm gonna scissor, soft knee, and then coming back up. Feel the inside line of the foot. Always, I think about like if there's a $100 bill on the inside line of my foot, that's where I'm gonna drive through, right? And now, if I look at that whole sequence, right? I've now really gotten into my hip, allowed it to internally rotate. I've created some force, right? Because these drills, at the end of the day, yeah, it's strength training. We're not using crazy loads because we're trying to reinforce that quality of movement, smooth tempo and reps. But if you did this every day, or for example, even if you started with doing this 3 days a week, it's not a lot of time, but it's a very good return on investment, right? And again, your hips will feel better. If you have back stuff or knee stuff, it'll help with that, because if you, again, lose internal rotation, it's gonna affect you in a lot of different ways. So I would say try that, because you don't have to do all the drills, but do some of the drills. Do them frequently. That's my challenge to you if you wanna improve your hips. And again, this is now gonna be able to improve everything, your strength training, your sports performance, right? But it's the building block of like, we first have to get our joints to move the way we want them to and be able to control that movement, right? And then we can load on top of that. So if you wanna look, feel, and perform more like an athlete, make sure you follow this channel. Again, that's without the nagging aches and pain. I'll see you next time with some more tips.